This site behind me, we burned in 2010 for the first time. And in 2010, it didn't exactly look like it looks now.
Never been burned before.
Cody, y'all just hang out down there in that corner, and if we need any help, we can just get you to bump up the road to us. 10-4.
So this is the little strip that's never had fire before, so there's a lot of fuel in there, and it's all grown up in greenbrier and vines and everything else, so more than likely we'll see some pretty active fire behavior right in here, and that's not going to be a surprise.
Cody, Joe.
Still got a good wind direction.
Go ahead, Joe. I need some torch fuel. You know what, there is some? Yeah, copy that. Stand by. I'll get Rebecca to bump some around the line to you. Copy. She'll be on that east line. About the closest she can get to you is Point Alpha. Unless you think you can make it to the asphalt road to the south. Alpha's not too far. I think that would be better. Okay, I copy that. Just get her to meet you there. Copy. Hey Joe, this is Paul. Go ahead. Adam's delivering a couple of folks. He's also got some torch mix. And Rick and I are coming through the slough with an old beach over there, so that's 4+ fuel headed your way. So I'll have fuel coming from the slough. Negative, Adam is bringing it around on the UTV. Copy that, thanks.
Go, Rebecca.
Go ahead.
Do you still need me to meet you at A with some fuel then?
Yes, please.
Copy that, I'll be there in 5.
Copy.
So what you see in here now is probably 50% or more overstory loss from that fire, and you can see some of the snags that are now in the ground in here. We now, since it's been 10 years, we have actually has some pine regeneration coming in here, and so what happened? Well, the fire got awfully hot, as evident in the video, but that is not necessarily, it's a causal factor, but it's not the only factor. So this little corner of trees was kind of rolled into a larger site prep burn that we were doing behind us. So we'd removed everything, all the overstory behind us, so that opened it up. We're sitting right on a road edge, public road edge here, so we were getting this edge effect where you were getting more light and more airflow into this edge, so that contributed to the site conditions. And more than anything, probably we were burning in 2010 in the middle of a prolonged and sustained drought period. There's probably about a 5-year period there where we had an extended drought in this part of in the southeast, and so those were all kind of causal factors, in addition to the fact that it just hadn't ever had fire in it. So the result of all that was you had considerable overstory mortality of some of these very large trees in here. After the initial fire, we burned this site probably 2 more times at least that I remember, And, you know, every time we'd put fire in it, these snags would catch on fire, and the fire would weaken them, and then they would, you know, they'd end up falling down. And where they fell in the interior, that wasn't that big a deal, but, you know, they fell across the road or whatnot, and eventually, you know, somebody has to cut them down, and that someone usually was me. Now, where we got away from that road edge effect, we had a lot less mortality. The fire behavior settled down a little bit, and we got you know, less mortality, and opened the stand up a little bit into, you know, what you see behind me here, which is desirable. You know, the thing with the fire behavior isn't in trees like this. You know, what you don't worry about as much is putting fire up into the canopy to damage the trees. It's more putting it down, putting the heat down into the root collars. And when you're in a, you know, in a droughty condition, prolonged drought, you know, that's more of a problem, and is going to give you the more mortality than, you know, putting fire up into the canopy. So we're down the road a bit from that 2010 burn site, and this is kind of what it looked like. This is another piece of that pine stand that has had fire excluded from it for a very long time, and you can see in here, while you still have the same overstory, what you have is a considerable amount of vines in there, greenbrier, you know, a 10 or 15 foot layer of vines, and some switch cane and ericaceous shrubs mixed in there a little lower in, underneath the stand. And you'll get needle drape, obviously, in there. You see some blueberries there, some ferns mixed in. And, you know, you have, and then you have the duff layer and the pine layer underneath all of it. So what all that does is, you know, it generates fire intensity because of the fuel, and it also gives ladder to elevate fire up into, higher up into the tree canopy, and that's kind of the recipe for a hot fire in here. So what we're looking at here is part of the area that got burned in a previous video that I put together, which was a Zunai prescribed fire slop over, and this little area in here is where the slop over occurred. We were doing the prescribed fire on this side of the road, and it had spotted over into this. We're back at them. This strip of trees in here is well engaged, so the lower end of it at least is toast. So, you know, we're 2 or 3 years now removed from when this fire went into this site, and you'll see the difference now. Pretty much no overstory loss in there, even though you'll see, you know, the char on these trees are, you know, 10 or 15 feet up in some places. So we got some fire in here for sure, but we had no overstory loss, and the biggest reason for that, I think, is we were not in the middle, you know, of a prolonged drought period. Quite the contrary, we had pretty much returned to normal rainfall and normal fuel moisture regimes in here. And I think even though this was the first fire entry, unintended, so it was, but I think that's the primary difference in why we didn't have any mortality in here.